Hey there, and welcome back to ClearPath Conversations. I'm Mark Bernardin. We've spent this mini series examining executive relationships from multiple angles: what executives evaluate, how to build access, how to read a room, and what to do when your sponsor leaves. Today, we're closing the series with what I think is the most important structural discipline in enterprise account management: building genuinely multi threaded relationships. Now, I use the word genuinely deliberately because there's a version of multi threading that most teams do, and it's not what I'm talking about. Adding 5 names to a CRM contact list is not multi threading. Having met someone's colleague once at a QBR is not multi threading. Multi threading done right means you have meaningful, independently valuable relationships with multiple people at different levels of the organization. Relationships that would survive the departure of any single one of them. Let me start with why single thread accounts are so common, because I don't think it's laziness or oversight. I think it's a structural consequence of how enterprise CS typically works. When you inherit an account, you inherit a relationship with whomever the previous CSM was closest to. That person becomes your primary contact. They're engaged, they respond to your emails, they show up to your meetings, and they give you the information that you need to do your job. The path of least resistance, and in a portfolio of 20 accounts with competing demands on your time, is to work primarily through that person. Meanwhile, every other stakeholder in the account is someone you'd theoretically like to know better, but there's always a more urgent reason to be somewhere else. This is how single thread accounts develop, not through neglect, but through the accumulation of practical decisions that each make individual sense. The problem is that when the primary contact changes, and they always change eventually, you realize you built an account relationship rather than an organizational relationship. Those are not the same thing. And the difference becomes drastically clear the moment the one person that you knew well is gone. So, how do you build depth without manufacturing it? Because I think the biggest mistake that CSMs make in multi-threading is treating it as a networking exercise rather than a value delivery exercise. They reach out to stakeholders with no real reason to engage, and the interaction is really transparent in its purpose. Busy people can tell when they're being contacted because someone wants something from them. And that impression it's hard to overcome. The approach that works is creating genuinely useful reasons for contact, which requires you to know enough about each stakeholder's role and priorities to identify what would actually be valuable to them. Here's a practical way to think about this. In most enterprise accounts, there are at least 3 distinct stakeholder categories with different priorities and different value languages. There are the the business stakeholders, the executives and business unit leaders who care about outcomes, risk reduction, and business impact. There are the technical stakeholders, the security engineers, IT leads, or implementation teams who care about whether the product actually works and how it integrates with their environment. And then there are the operational stakeholders, the program managers, the project leads, or the team managers who care about process, reporting, or the day-to-day friction. Each of those categories has a different set of things they would find they would find valuable from you. And each of them represents a distinct thread in your relationship network. When you have genuine relationships across all three, not just names in a system, but real engagement where each person sees you as someone worth talking to, the account can absorb significant disruption without collapsing. Let me give you a concrete example of how I've built this deliberately. At one of my enterprise accounts at Palo Alto Networks, a large retailer with a significant security program, I had an excellent relationship with the program manager who ran the deployment day to day, but I had almost no relationship with the CISO or the IT director who sat above her. I started by asking my primary contact one simple question. Who else in your organization do you think should be getting more value from our work together? Not who should I meet? That that question's transparent. But who should be getting more value? That puts the frame on outcomes rather than access. And the answer to that question almost always includes names. She named the IT director who had specific questions about integration with their existing security stack that hadn't been answered to his full satisfaction. I asked if she'd be comfortable with me reaching out to him directly with some technical information that might address his questions. Yeah, she said yeah. So I sent the IT director just a brief, specific email. Not an introduction, not a meeting request, just an email that addressed the specific integration question with a clear, direct answer and an offer to go deeper if it would prove useful. He responded within 2 hours, and we had a call the following week. Over the next quarter, I built a working relationship with that IT director. Not because I forced my way into it, but because I started with something genuinely useful to him. From there, the relationship with the CISO followed. The IT director mentioned to his boss that they'd had some productive conversations with the CSM, and the CISO included me in their next security program review. None of that was manufactured. It followed from delivering value to each person in terms that were relevant to their role. Now, I want to talk about one more dimension of multi-threading that doesn't get discussed enough, and that's the value of relationships at the peer level. Most multi-threading conversations focus on building upward, getting to the executive tier. And that's important, but some of the most durable account relationships that I've built have been with people who were not senior at the time of the relationship, but who grew into more significant roles over the years. The program manager who is a peer level contact today is often the director or VP 3 years from now. The security analyst who engages with your product most deeply might be the CISO at a different company in 5 years. Building genuine relationships at every level, not just the ones that serve your immediate access needs, creates a network that compounds over time in ways that are impossible to predict and invaluable when they surface. This is one of the things that I've come to believe most strongly about enterprise CS as a career. The relationships you build, maintained with authenticity and genuine value delivery, are assets that follow you across companies and years in ways that nothing else in this work quite matches. Multi-threading is not just an account protection strategy. It's how you build a career that has real depth. That closes out our first mini-series in this new chapter of ClearPath Conversations. Starting in our next episode, we're moving into renewal. Specifically, why treating renewal as a conversation rather than a campaign is one of the most common and costly mistakes in enterprise CS. We're going to talk about the renewal motion from first signal to signed order form and what it actually takes to win that moment when it counts. So follow the show on your favorite platform. Connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Mark Bernardin. And take a look at your portfolio this week through the multi-threading lens. For each of your top accounts, ask yourself, if my primary contact left tomorrow, do I have relationships that would hold? The answer tells you where to invest your time before you have to. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this work. And thank you for showing up and delivering every single day. I'll talk to you soon.